All right, so just by way of, oh, where did it go? There it is. By way of introduction to chapter 4. Right, in chapter 4 we're going to be talking about polynomial and rational functions, and we already spent some time reviewing what you already knew about these kinds of functions coming into this class back in chapter 2. Right, so specifically sections 2.2 through 2.4. So any of the material from those sections is going to be useful coming into chapter 4. And so if you feel shaky on any of that stuff, you should go back and review it. So we're going to be dealing with polynomials, which are things like this, right? They're sums of terms of the form ax to the n, where a is some complex number and n is some whole number. We're not going to focus too much on when our coefficients are non-real, but we could have non-real coefficients from time to time. For the most part, we're interested in when we have real coefficients. The first half of the section is, or the first half of the chapter is going to talk about these polynomials, and we're going to see some really awesome things, in my opinion. In my opinion, this chapter is really the heart of precalculus, and it ties together so much of what you learned in algebra and trig. It's really a great chapter, in my opinion. Really good material here. One of the things that we're going to discuss is the fundamental theorem of algebra, which you may or may not have heard of before. It's kind of crazy that some of you probably haven't heard of the fundamental theorem of algebra, even though you've been taking algebra for years and years now. But we're going to talk about what the fundamental theorem of algebra is. And it's really an incredible fact. So that's what we're going to do during the first half of the chapter. The second half of the chapter is going to discuss rational functions being ratios of polynomials, as we discussed back in chapter 2. So again, take a look at sections 2.2 through 2.4 if you feel like you're shaky on any of the stuff you should know about polynomials or rational functions. In particular, a couple things are going to come in handy for us. First of all, factorization techniques. So make sure that you really understand really well the factoring techniques that you should know at this point. Okay. And then the second thing to keep in mind is solving polynomial equations, right? So make sure that you understand really well the process of how to solve a polynomial equation by factoring, okay? Or if it's a quadratic that we can't factor, then, make sure that you have the quadratic formula memorized. We're going to be dealing with graphs of polynomial and rational functions as well. And so just as a reminder, there are some graphs that you should know. So you should know that the graph of x squared is a parabola and that it looks something like this. The graph of x cubed is like a little, I don't know if this has an actual name to it, like cubic, a little squiggly, but it looks something like this. So you should know these two functions really well. And then for rational functions, you should know what 1 over x looks like. Right? It looks like this. And you should know what 1 over x squared looks like. Okay, it looks like this. That's all I have to say by way of introduction, except that, polynomials, it may seem like a very sort of niche topic, like why do we care about polynomials so much? But as we saw at the end of 3.8 in that little math-richment portion of the section, lots of functions can be described as polynomials. Even transcendental functions can sometimes be written as infinite polynomials. And that's why we care about polynomials so much, is they're really pretty fundamental to our understanding of just mathematics in general. So I look forward to going over this chapter with you. We'll see you in 4.1.